You can't win the game every ball that you have. You need to understand there is time when you have to just pass. I think the issue is bigger than that. The federation need to understand that they need to invest a lot more into infrastructure. They need to, events, tournament. They need to organize again trip in Europe, to really support that movement. The IKF is doing a great job again. I really, really believe that, the passion, the energy, the time they're putting on, and, really to help young players to really, achieve their dream.
Hello and welcome everyone to the IKF Football Diaries, an international workshop series where we sit down with top professionals from across the globe who are shaping the future of football. And in this special episode, we are joined by Massimo Valenziano, a UEFA A licensed coach with over 15 years of elite coaching experience across Italy, Spain, Russia, Ireland, and more. He has worked with renowned institutions like the Real Madrid Foundation, AC Milan Junior Camps, and multiple professional clubs across Europe. And he also had his own academy, MV8. And he brings a wealth of knowledge and global perspective to the table. This is part of the IKF special series on international pathways, where we uncover how players from India and beyond can tap into opportunities abroad and build successful football careers. So, welcome, Valenciano. How are you and how are you feeling ahead of this podcast?
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be part of your podcast. As I said before, I saw your episode. I'm really fan of your work. Good energy, good enthusiasm. That's what young people needs, to succeed. So, thank you.
Yeah. So, our first question getting into it. So, how has your journey shaped into football? How did you get into football? And I saw your profile on LinkedIn as well. You are quite passionate about
Okay.
football. And this is a sport that, before anything, it is the passion that drives us towards this sport. So, how has your passion transformed into that love and your job in football?
Okay, growing up in Italy, obviously Europe is all about football, especially Italy, obviously Spain, Germany, growing up in the 80s and 90s, obviously was all about football. I was playing myself, really. I mean, now obviously different sports are growing, of course, it's good to have it, but back then football was like a religion in a way for us. The World Cup was a huge event. So obviously I grew up as a fan at the beginning, then I became a player. And then one of my goals in life was always to do something that I love to do. That's what I encourage my young players to do. I make a living out of it. So I felt that coaching was a natural evolution of my passion in a way.
Hmm.
So that was always in my mind. But my coaching career as a coach started in England. I spent 12 years in England,
Hmm.
and that's where I really go. All my qualification, I go, my beginnings as a coach.
Yeah, yeah. So just like you mentioned that Italy and you have been in Europe and Europe has always been into football. That football is the number one
Yes,
sport in Europe. So
yes,
like uh, I'm an Indian, so here cricket is followed more as compared to football. So can you just
yeah.
tell me a gist as to how passionate the European fans are into football?
I think obviously it's like I do many analogies with my player. Obviously, if you think about basketball, we think about the NBA, USA, isn't it? We think about cricket, obviously, we think about India, Australia. Obviously, historically, football it was always there. Obviously, the English it kind of invented in a way or legalized. Many people suggest that South America were the first ones. But obviously, England was clever on legalizing and putting the rules about it. It's just the way it is, in school, outside, in the street. I mean, like you guys, obviously, I've been in India, everybody play everywhere cricket, there is that great energy about it.
Mm,
Football was pretty much the same. When we had a PE in school, it was always about football. It was very, very, very competitive in a way. So that's why I feel that the Europe was very, very into football, since the beginning.
yeah,
That was the main reason of that. Obviously, be successful, winning. Obviously, Spain, Italy, Germany, with different generations.
yeah.
But football was always the main attraction in a way, for young players.
Yeah, yeah. And since you are from Italy, and we have seen teams from Italy who are quite great in defense. Like they
Yeah,
focus more on defense, and we have seen some great players coming out
yeah,
of Italy, like Paolo Maldini,
yeah,
just a
exactly. Yeah,
legend
yeah,
in football. Then we
yeah.
have seen Ancelotti, who has been the coach, one
Of
of the
course.
greatest coaches in Italian
Yeah,
history or European history. So, like just wanted to focus on this aspect that when Maradona came from Argentina to Italy or to play in
Yes,
Napoli, who completely changed the
exactly.
course of history of Napoli. So how did that transform, the passionate fan base? Because he was an Argentinian, so coming into Italy, it was
Yes.
a challenge for him. How did he bring that enthusiasm into Italian fans that football just on
Yeah.
a whole new level?
Yeah. No, I think it was madness. That's what I feel there. I feel sorry for the new generation in Italy because my generation, we grow up with again Maradona, Napoli. We had the AC Milan was a huge team, with the Maldini. He debuted when I was 17. Baresi, you had Gullit, Van Basten. Italy was really the benchmark of football back in the 90s.
Mm,
It's so sad now to see this deflection. It's like Spain now in a way. Spain and England, of course,
mm,
they're creating amazing players. Bellingham, Foden, you name it. Back then, it was special to be in Italy at that time. Again, you had a Baggio, you had so many Italian players being inspired by this top player. Essentially, Maradona, in my opinion, was the greatest player, so we can take that away. No comparison to anybody, the players there. So obviously, Pelé, I don't remember, but Maradona was special. I mean, he was at Barcelona. He came to Naples, which was a really average team.
yeah. Mm,
He changed the mentality. He changed really the mindset in a way of players. They won two
mm,
Scudetto. They won the Europa League. They won the Champions League. And really, Maradona was such an inspirational figure. He had a strong personality. In my view, again, he was the greatest ever. And I regard him as the best ever.
yeah, yeah. And just like you're mentioning that for you, he's the greatest ever because I didn't get a chance to witness him. So I prefer Messi. I think he has that
Yeah, no, which
enthusiasm.
I respect. Many young players do.
Yeah.
I respect that. I think the argument there is just for the people, for young people. It's like a Michael Jordan in a way, LeBron James.
Mm,
I feel that back in the 90s, 80s, the referee weren't so. Today, it's so easy to get away with you foul somebody, it's a yellow card.
yeah.
If you look some footage of Maradona, they used to really destroy him.
Yeah.
And to
Exactly.
play for such a lower team, I mean, I think they are mad about Cristiano and Messi. They've been very, very consistent over 10, 15 years. I respect that.
Mm,
Maradona had a short career. Obviously, his lifestyle, we all know he wasn't the greatest,
mm,
But back then, I feel that when I look at Messi, I put this analogy with my players. When I look at Messi, I love Messi. I watch him live. I was in Spain. I watch him several times. He's incredible. But I kind of understand everything he does. When I watched Maradona, it was just beyond understanding. He was doing something out of the blue. I said, wow, how did he do that? He always, I also playing for an average team allowed me to really, in Italy, there was Juventus power, very, very powerful team,
yeah.
AC Milan, Inter Milan, and Naples managed to win two Scudetto, which is the league, in a very crazy way. Maradona was totally the pinnacle of that, even winning the World Cup in a such way. I feel that Messi somehow lacked that leadership and personality
Mm,
that Maradona was putting in the game, and that's what I feel. But of course, we can argue, it's a personal opinion, I respect you guys as a younger generation. Obviously, look at Messi scoring 900 goals or Cristiano.
yeah.
I totally, accept it.
Yeah, and your passion, seeing your passion for like Maradona and you idolizing him. I remember of my father; he's a huge Maradona fan. So and
Yeah,
he doesn't agree with us that Messi is the greatest. He's like, no, Maradona is the greatest
yeah,
for me.
yeah,
So
yeah,
coming back to your journey,
yep,
so you have coached in England, Spain,
yeah,
Italy, these kind of nations, and all of them are like top nations in football, especially in Europe or in world football as well.
yeah.
So how has that shaped your football philosophy?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking that. Now Europe is different, obviously. I went to England like back in the 2000. It was very much like you mentioned before. Italy was defense, England was physical, high tempo, Spain was technique. And when I went there, I was a little bit, not naive, but when you grew up in Italy, it was all about tactics, it was about defense, 1-0, it's okay, we lock down. And then, I think life, football is all about having a good balance.
Mm,
So try to use, he allowed me to obviously to spend 12 years in England, 10 years in Spain, allow me to really understand that as a coach, you can use and try to find the perfect balance between using when you need to use a good defensive, be organized defensively, when you need to really having a physical team, when you want to win the game, and obviously having the priority of developing technical players. So I kind of shift my mentality, if you will, as Italian to be a little bit more open-minded and try to learn from any different nation, if you will,
Yeah.
obviously England spend a lot of money. As you know, many coaches from abroad, many players. The Premier League obviously is a very successful league. Is the most successful league in the world. So I'm trying as a coach to analyzing how can I really find the perfect combination, if you will,
Hmm.
on my methodology of coaching.
Hmm. Yeah.
And you again, you can learn from any really every country. On that,
Yeah.
getting the best out of both worlds, if you will.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And in your CV and in your profile as well, it is mentioned that you have been part of the Real Madrid Foundation team as well and AC Milan.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
what were some key learnings from those kind of institutions? Because as compared to other
yeah,
institutions, they are kind of more like
yeah.
progress, if we say, their clubs are
Exactly.
playing in the
Yeah,
Champions League or these kind of stuff.
yeah.
So, what were some key learnings, and how did that key learning did you pick and put it into your MV8 academy that you had?
Exactly. Yeah. That's another great question. Well done. I think, what I keep telling my players is that, making the shift between the grassroots to professional,
Hmm.
you know, is a fine line in a way. It's still football, but professional club give you that sense of organization, you
Yeah.
know, commitment, which you need to have. It's not just, you feel that it's a game, but it's not a game at the same time because you need to really, you go rules that are more strict, if you will. You need to be punctual, you need to train 100% all the time. There is a support that you will have in any given moment. When you work in a professional environment, like I was in Milanello, Milanello is a sports center with the Milan. I watched Ancelotti back then when Kaká was there, when many top players were there. You feel really, is that shift of mindset where they take everything seriously.
Yeah.
There is no, ish, if you will, in things. They're very organized. There is a schedule to follow. Yeah, they have a good time, of course. They still play football. But you feel in the professional environment, there is always a top organization. They're very organized. They're very focused. And that's really the main thing that you can have a bad day, of course, as a player, but, you will be, how can I say, you'll be followed in your evolution process
Hmm.
in a very detailed way,
Yeah. Yeah.
and people understand that.
Exactly.
They will put 100%, but that's why I create the NBA. I wanted to give the players, you got the feeling when you go to Madrid or you go to Atletico Madrid or to Seville, pro clubs, that the club are very clever on giving you the opportunity to say, you're here to play football, we will take care about the rest. And that's
Hmm.
really important for a player.
Yeah.
All you need to put your energy on is about your game.
Exactly.
And then we will take care of it. And when you have that as a player, is really, really, important for you to really totally focus single-minded on your progression as a player.
Yeah, yeah. And you have 15 years of experience, and in India, the positions like the technical director or founder of these kind of club is
Yeah,
there is a shortage of people because there is no proper education that
exactly.
we
Yeah,
can
yeah.
have in India. So you have 15 years of experience. So how do you think will that help? Because you are planning to
Yeah,
come in India
exactly.
and
Yeah.
to build something in India. So how do you think will help the Indian people, the Indian generation, to not just who are on the field, that is a complete different case, but off the field, the people who want to be in management, who want to take these kind of roles. So
Yeah.
how can you help them?
IKF is doing a great job. I'm really happy to collaborate with IKF. They're very broad. It's not only about having a trial, put a player to a professional club, but that's also obviously the main focus, but also give it the opportunity because we know a small percentage, let's not be hypocritical, there is a small percentage are going to be a pro. So, but football offers many opportunities, like you mentioned. You can be a football coach, you can be a physio, you can be an agent. There is so many, routes that they can follow. I think, I've been in India now, I think 3 times, and I coach many Indian players back in Spain and in England.
Hmm.
There is the right energy. I love India really from an energy point of view. Indian players are very curious about it. They know they're behind, of course, because historically, obviously, cricket is such a huge global sport, which I understand it. But football is coming through. New generation, they really love football. Obviously, the social media is helping that because globally, football is always televised and, they go they priority Cristiano is the most followed person in the world and obviously Messi, which I understand. I think England is humble enough to understand that they need to bring people in. I mean, England, I saw England when it was very, very average.
Mm.
They go Mourinho, they go Wenger, they go Klopp, they go Ancelotti, they go Conte. They had many, many workshops. They need to understand that to learn for the best, which at the moment in Europe is the benchmark,
Yeah,
they need to bring people in.
exactly.
And they're doing that. It will take time, of course, but we need this kind of experience to get different opinions. Today you might get a couple of ideas from me. I saw many good coaches on your program. They really give a good insight.
Mm.
You got the humility to understand that.
Exactly.
But it will take time. It will take time to build it. But ITF is certainly a great pillar in the global football movement in India.
Exactly.
They're doing a great job. I'm really impressed with the way they're putting things across, with the way they're helping young kids,
Mm.
and you're certainly the right way. But it will take time. It will take time to do it.
Yeah. And coming to the IKF topic, since the
Yeah.
India Queen of Football is the main aspect of this podcast. So, how did that collaboration come into? How did they approach you, and how did it come
Yeah.
to life now?
Yeah, I was obviously I love India. I really love it. I love the food. I love the culture. I had some friends there. I was doing some coaching in Pune, for some friends, and then through a network of friends,
Yeah.
we had a coffee basically, really, with the Bhushan, with the Hitesh, and we really connect. The energy was right. I like it really again. When you meet the people with the same vibes in a way, with enthusiasm, with a real intention, and they're doing something great for Indian football.
Mm.
So we start talking, we talked a couple of times, and then I agreed to really uh, try to collaborate, to start to give some energy to it,
Yeah.
to put some ideas. And obviously, we start in Pune, obviously, and I'm really looking forward that because again, every time we talk, we come up always with some new ideas. If I can help them, with my experience, that'll be great.
Yeah. And what excites you most about IKF and the Indian talent? Just like you mentioned that there is that energy
Yeah,
that they are curious to know more about football. But comparing that to the infrastructure that India has, we are not that
yeah,
grown as you already mentioned.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
you need a balance in that. So how do you think will IKF your experience will help those
yeah.
Indian talents?
I think I agree with you. India is behind. They need to, obviously I went to Pune, which is a huge city. I didn't know it was 7 million people. Obviously Mumbai is huge. You come to Europe everywhere, you see a football pitch, the 3G. India need to, I know it's up for the government. Maybe, private organization need to invest more into sport because you got a huge population. Sport is a great, we don't need to, emphasize the importance of sport. Young people put energy, dream about it. It's hard. Again, like we said, it will take time,
Mm.
but ITF is the right path to centralize all these young people to really having a go to have a trial because even if they don't make it, they will still learn it. They will meet incredible people. They will learn a certain new. Obviously, we get a feedback. They can go back to it. They can have another opportunity. They need to understand. I feel that again, like we said before, football is a huge,
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge read all around the world that they can really play their part,
Yeah.
not on becoming Cristiano Messi, but also on becoming again a great coach. They need to believe in the power of their dream.
Mm.
That's certainly for sure. And India will get that because you show in cricket, I mean, we had many conversations with my partners about the polo. I mean, Indian sport, you're there,
Yeah.
obviously cricket is the benchmark, is very followed, and so I think football it will take longer,
Mm.
but I feel the right energy in football in India. I'm sure in 5, hopefully 3, 5, 6 years time, you will play your part.
Yeah, exactly. I hope so that India does qualify for the FIFA World Cup. We are very much,
Yeah,
intrigued that India reaches that stadium, that FIFA World Cup podium, and be there representing India. We want a
yeah,
big.
you will be there. I'm sure it's a matter of time.
Hmm.
It really is.
Yeah. And coming back to you, so I just wanted to know
Yeah.
what are your plans for the Indian football talents, and what exactly are you trying to build here?
Okay. I think one thing that I felt when I was in India. I'll be totally honest with you. Life has a change. I mean, back in the
Yes.
90s, I refer obviously to my childhood, if you were, I always use this analogy again with my players. If you had a number 10 in your back, let's say Maradona, Baggio, Zico, all these
Mm.
people, I remember you don't need to do anything else. You're number 10, you take free kicks, you take penalties. Talent was good enough to allow you to survive.
Hmm.
Maradona will touch 3 balls, he will win the game, that's it. It
Yeah.
wasn't, yeah, he had some defending. But I remember, give instruction to players, number 10 or number 9, they rarely had a defensive task.
Hmm.
Excuse me. Nowadays has changed.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell my players that young people think, oh, I need to dribble like a Neymar, or by look at Yamal, what he does.
Yeah.
Football is about 4 main pillars. You got the technical part, huge,
Hmm.
tactical,
Yeah.
physical, and mental. And these are 4 huge parts. And you need to be clever as a coach. And that's what I do when I do talk with young coaches back in India and different places in Europe. You need to find a balance. Obviously, when they're young, in England and also in Europe, we call the golden age.
Yeah.
From 6 to 12, we would say you must work on technique, you must work on your coordination, your quick feet. There is certain aspect they need to work on. When I saw Indian coaches in general, I'm talking, they need to understand they need to have a structure. You can't coach at 7 years old like you coach at 18 years old.
Exactly.
You can't. It still will develop, but you will kind of limit his evolution.
Hmm.
You need to work on technique when they're young, and then you build up, and then you work a little bit on your fitness, and then you work on a tactical power when a little bit older. And they need to find that right. It's like make a great recipe.
Yeah.
When you cook some great meal, you need to balance that. You can't put too much salt or sugar or whatever. That's what I feel the communication need to be based on. Many young players come to me, I dribble, I score 3 goals. Coach, I don't want to see that. Yeah, that's important to do it, but there is, you need to be consistent nowadays.
Hmm.
You can't only, you know, dribble 3, I think you made it. No, next game, if you don't score a goal, you're going to be. So I think, I want to show coaches and players that consistency nowadays in modern football and modern society is really, really important.
Yeah. And
More than talent. Talent counts, but, hard work is still
yeah.
the most important skill to develop.
Exactly. Exactly. And there's a good saying as well that talent without hard work is nothing. So hard
Exactly.
work is
Yeah, yeah. That's a great quote.
yeah, hard work is the
Yeah, I
best.
totally agree with that.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
And coming back to you, so you have like
Yeah.
a lot of experience as compared to the coaches that India has. Not mentioning that, of
Yeah.
course, India too has great coaches, but you bring
Of
a
course.
wealth of experience with you, and being in Italy, Spain, and England and other countries, you know how the football ecosystem works in that country. So coming to India, you have been in India for like numerous times. So, do you
Yeah.
think that there is like a gap in the coaching methodology as well? Because we talk about the players and everything, but off the pitch, coaches, staffs, or physios, those kind of people, is there a gap between the people there as well off the pitch? Because as we see,
Yeah.
like the Indian national team as well, uh, of course, their on-field performances are not that good, but the
Yeah.
off the pitch people as well look a bit uncompetitive. I don't want
Yeah.
to, yeah, say it like
No,
that.
no, no. I understand that. I understand many people, of course, ask me that in a way, in a different way. I think at the moment, India is lacking structure.
Mm,
You need to understand that. I know you can get the foreigners out, but still the quality of the players is the most important thing. You have to build that from grassroots.
mm,
Obviously, I haven't visited all the professional club. Even if I go, obviously, different players that are coach, they're playing a good level in India. But I feel at the moment that professionalism is not quite there.
mm,
He's building it,
yeah,
but again, it takes time. Again, they need to continue to bring people in to learn and try to implement it. But I need to start from the grassroots.
yeah,
Is vital because you go again, a huge population. The movement is growing. New generation. I thought I read a couple of articles regarding that. New generation in school and in the street are playing football nowadays.
yeah,
So obviously, cricket is still the main sport. Is untouchable, of course. Like it might shift that in a few years down the line. Again, people coaches need to travel, they need to bring people in, and they need to step by step, like they did. If you look at Europe, for example, the
mm,
90s was all about Italy.
yeah,
Then, obviously, you had Germany is always very consistent.
mm, yeah,
Then you had Spain with when they won the Euro 2008, Iniesta, Xavi, they had the Fabregas, they had a huge generation on that.
mm,
England as well. England was always behind. Even nowadays, England, I'm sorry to say, but they struggle to create top coaches somehow. It's
exactly,
very strange that, but they work so well with the Football Association. They are the great generation. You look at Saka, again, like we said before, Foden, Bellingham, you got such a great generation of players.
exactly, yeah,
But, so I think it's a cyclical, if you will. In Europe, you got the Italy time, you got the Dutch time, you got Germany. Obviously, you had the Spain, you had the France. You always had France, obviously, with Mbappe, with Dembele, the great generation. And I'm sure India eventually will be a good nation of, you know, US as well. If you look at the example of USA, they always try with Pelé before, and then David Beckham. And you look at now, you look at the McKennie's at Juventus, went to Chelsea, and now it's AC Milan. No, you had some American players coming through, but they spend so much time and financial, not being a football country is very, very hard to build up. But in my opinion, you need to start from the grassroots. People need to understand that the players are the key to succeed.
IKF is helping grassroots football and Indian talent, and I've been speaking with Hitesh Bhai and Bhushan sir as well, and they are focusing more on grassroots because we all know these are the players who will represent India in the upcoming 10 to 15
Absolutely,
years.
yeah.
So, how do you think your wealth of experience? What will you try to give it to them, and what would you like to give as an advice to these kids who will represent India in the future?
Yeah, I would try to obviously motivate, inspire them that it's possible. Obviously, living in Europe, you got so many, like you said, growing up, Maldini, Del Piero, Baggio, Spanish people had, Iniesta, Xavi, England, they had Hurricane. In India, it's hard to find these, obviously, role model, if you will, in football. But I think, you know, I I believe as a coach that once a player realizes they can get better, he will get that momentum. I think a great coach in general, if you can coach the player in a certain way, they can constantly improve.
Yeah,
That will give them momentum to become better, and that's what I feel. I think make them understand that football is not only about dribble three and scoring an overhead goal. It's about putting the time in it, and then you will see the results. A better pass, a better shots, an header. There is certain things they need to understand because sometimes I feel in India, not about only the confusion, they don't really know what to aim for. And that's what I feel that hopefully I can give a clarity about, depending on the age group, what they really need to focus on. Because sometimes they want to do everything and they struggle to get confused. If you are right back, you go things they need to do with the ball and things you need to do without the ball. You can't be a striker if you're right back. So there is certain things that I feel they still need to be clarified on. Especially when I used to tell my players when I had the NBA obviously in Spain, that one thing that Europe has is two things mainly. From when people come from outside Europe, they struggle in two things. They can be good technically, physically, but the mindset and the tactical part, the game understanding is, Europe, I feel that they go another level on that. And that's what I feel in India, people underestimate it.
yeah,
Understanding the game is vital. It will save you energy, it will make you, decision making will allow you to play a better game. You can't win the game every ball that you have. You need to understand there is time when you have to just pass. So I think with IKF, we've been talking about is about creating a format of a trial when young players, even if they don't make it, they will understand what they need to do to get better as a player. That's going to be the main focus, I feel, in Pune, in Mumbai, with ITF. The young players need to understand, okay, you're not up here yet, but you can get there by making the right steps.
exactly, exactly, and that is what India needs as well because we can't take a leap now. We have to go step by step because
Exactly, yeah.
and that is how Indian football will grow. And there is one question that is doing rounds
Yeah.
on social media, especially regarding to Indian football. That we had an international friendly just a few days back, and we had a game for the AFC Asian Qualifier 2027, and both the
Okay.
games we lost, and it was to a team who are lower ranked than us. So
Yeah.
one was the AFC Asian Cup was against Hong Kong. It was
Okay.
around 150 ranked, and we are 127th ranked, and we lost
Yeah, yeah.
against them by one goal to
Okay,
nil.
fair.
And there has been a saying going on social media that we need OCI and PIO players, that is the players who are playing in foreign countries, Indian origin, who can play in India because India doesn't allow those kind of players to play
Okay,
for
yeah.
India. They are like only Indian origin who has a visa for India, not other countries.
Okay. Yeah,
So
yeah, I understand.
people want those players who are playing in England fourth division or a Cyprus
Yeah,
division or Russia's division, for those
yeah,
players to come to India and represent them. So what do you feel? Can these players help? Because I personally feel that it is a short term plan. It is not a long term plan for development. These players will give us results for like 2 or 3 years, but after that they
yeah,
might also fade. This is a risk. We are gambling on
yeah,
something. So what are
yeah.
your thoughts on this?
Uh, you know, at the beginning, in Europe as well that happened. We won the World Cup Italy in 2006, and there was a player called Cameronesi who was born in Argentina, but because he had a grandfather Italian, it's happening all over the place. Diego Costa, I don't know if you remember, for Atletico Madrid,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
born in Brazil,
Brazil, yeah,
and then you remember Pepe, no? Pepe as well
yeah,
was a Brazilian born, but because he had a relatives Portuguese. In Europe, we had that conversation, I think, 10, 15 years ago.
yeah,
To be honest, now, if I will look with a step back, I think that's a good thing. As long as I can raise that quality. Because again, somebody that play in Europe, we always bring, you know, a different mindset.
yeah,
It's like when you go to study to USA or great university, you will have a different output that you can bring back to the country. In fact, many people do that. No? In India, they were telling me they went to USA back in the 70s or 80s, and then they bring obviously the new ideas, the know-how, if you will.
yeah,
No, I'll be open with that. I really be. Of course, you have to be intelligent to not penalize your Indian, players.
yeah,
But I think the issue is bigger than that. The federation
mm,
need to understand that they need to invest a lot more into infrastructure. They need to, events, tournament. They need to organize again trip in Europe, to really support that movement, and the coach
yeah,
as well. Then it's great support because at the moment I feel that they are again, like I told you, for the players, they haven't got a real philosophy. You go to England, you know what they believe. You go to Spain, you go to Germany, India, and I feel they're trying to scratch. Okay, England. Obviously, England is the main. Obviously, be the colony. They will look at the Premier League. They try to recreate that. But as I said, it's not an excuse. It takes time to do it. I feel people like yourself, organization like IKF, that's the future. People need to know why things are not going the right way.
exactly, exactly.
So that will help in the long run.
Yeah, and I was part of their season four trials of IKF
Oh,
that
okay.
was like in September last year,
Okay.
and it was such a great experience for me. They came in Mumbai and they
Yeah.
invited me to come and be there and show
Yeah.
how it
No,
happens.
definitely.
And it was such a great thing to see because when I was a kid, when I was of that age, 9 to 10 years,
Yeah.
maybe I didn't have that many opportunities. I
Yeah.
was
Of
told
course.
mostly to focus on studies rather than
Yeah.
it's a saying in India that studies take you everywhere, not sports.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. No, that's the thing.
yeah, and that's the thinking that needs to change in India because parents usually don't allow kids to go and
Yeah.
explore sports.
But that's down. I had this conversation with several parents. I agree with you. Of course, I understand the fact that the different, I think that, like we said before, you are in Italy, you go Juventus, Milan, Inter, you got an objective there. In India, even if you make it, it's not, you make a Juventus, that's it. Your five generational family will be sorted. In India, unfortunately, if you don't make it, the risk is that you don't study, don't play, what's it going to do? That's
Yeah,
what I feel that people need to understand that you can become a good physio, a good agent, when football is developed. I mean, you look at the football stuff. I mean, back in the days, you had the main coach, maybe the physio. Now
yeah,
you got goalkeeper coach, you got three people, you got the statistics, the analyze. Football is such a huge. I mean, I was watching now, obviously Ancelotti go to Brazil. He
yeah,
had 15 people staff, 15. So
wow,
you got the technical coach, you got two fitness coach, you got, prevention. There is so many different roles in football.
yeah,
And, but I understand that obviously the parents concerned, the school, the piece of paper will give you obviously an outlet to get a job. But, I feel that you can do both. You can still study, get a degree, and you can still put your energy in. Obviously, it's a huge sacrifice, but it can still be done. You get your degree, and also you can put energy in your football. It's all a matter of finding that balance that we talked before about it. You
exactly.
practice again. You will find an hour a day to work on your fitness, to work on your technique, to watch it. Especially nowadays, guys, you got so many tools to learn from. You got
Yeah,
YouTube, you got so many different platforms. So you have
yeah.
to maximize it.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking about IKF and their season
Yeah,
four trials, the season five trials is also I guess the way as well. It will be held in August to September. But speaking about the season four trials, I was
yeah,
part of a workshop, and the kids that were there on the pitch, you could see the talent, and IKF was such a great platform for them. They can
yeah,
showcase their talent, and that is what happens. They can go to international
yeah,
academies, be a part of them, and learn from those academies because we all know that in India football isn't that
Yeah,
growing at the pace that it is growing internationally. So
of
if they
course.
go abroad, they will get a whole new idea of what exactly football is
Yeah.
and how is it played. So you coming to India and you seeing these Indian talents, which type of quality do you prefer the most in a player? What are the qualities that you feel
Okay.
that these are the qualities that a player should have?
I think, yeah, great question again. I think IKF is doing a great job again. I really, really believe that, the passion, the energy, the time they're putting on, and, really to help young players to really, achieve their dream.
Yeah,
So that's really, really important. It's a work in progress, isn't it? It's a really hard. I think having collaboration with Europe. You look at IKF, they go collaboration obviously with Spain, with the UK, with Poland. They're really doing a great job, and that's
yeah,
I think will define that, giving these young players the opportunity to go to Europe to experience a different mentality, a different way of playing football. And I'm sure that will expand their view about it. The advice to young players again is to really try to learn as much as possible. Try to really listen to the coaches, try to apply, be humble enough to understand that you're a good player, but good player doesn't mean that you dribble everybody who's got a goal, or because you're the quicker one, or because the stronger one. No, football again, like there is these four pillars. You need to understand the game, you need to study, because the
yeah,
game, let's say a quick example. You go to play for Guardiola. Guardiola will love your tiki taka. You play football technical. You go to maybe a more defensive style.
mm,
Mourinho, let's say,
yeah,
your mindset had to change it. We saw many over again the players like Salah. Salah was at Chelsea.
yeah,
De Bruyne was at Chelsea. He went to Liverpool, went to Roma. De Bruyne as well was there. So it's a matter as well of adapting, of course, to the style of coaches as well, but learning and be humble enough to understand what you can bring to the team. I think that's a great gift
yeah,
the players need to have. That open-minded on, okay, what I need to do. I need to put my talent to the service of the team. And that's really, really important because naturally, I've been a player, we all selfish. We think about ourselves. I want to have the ball. I want to score the goal. I want to be man of the match. I want to, which is okay. I understand Cristiano is very selfish in a way, if you will, no? But he achieved great success. If you
yeah.
can bring that to a team spirit, teamwork, I think that we can expand greatly.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay?
And just final question to you
Yeah.
that your collaboration with IKF, how are you envisioning it, and what are your plans, and how do you feel that it will grow in the upcoming future
Yeah.
years that are going to be with IKF?
I think the conversation has been very great, obviously, with both Itesh and Mr. Bushan has been very open-minded. They've welcomed me very well. They're giving me really total independence. To be honest, I will try to bring my experience. I'll try to bring, obviously, my contact, if you will. Obviously, eventually they will come to Europe, to Spain, to Italy, to England. But also, I think we're discussing a lot about creating not a better, but a more complete format for players. I feel that many players are coming in. I think they need to have a clarity, even if you don't make it, like I told you before, even if it's not the end of the world. You go back home and you work on it to give really clarity young players where they really need to work on. And already they're giving great feedbacks, a little bit more detail on, like we said before, tactically, your central mid, that's what you need to do. It's totally different from a striker. They're different worlds. A
Mm,
goalkeeper is from the moon. Is a different position altogether, and they need to understand that. I think give that clarity to a player will allow them to say, "Okay, I'm not ready yet, but I will be ready next year." I think building the motivation, the inspiration to players, because it can be quite devastating. If you don't make it in that little nut, in that little percentage, it can be really, really down. It can be
yeah.
really negative. It can have a
Mm,
negative effect on players. And we want to reduce that gap. It's not quite there yet, but with the right feedback, with the right program, I think they will get there.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this episode, and
Okay.
it was great talking to you, Massimo Valenziano, and I learned a lot, especially because
I'm glad.
being now off the pitch and doing these kind of podcasts, I also have a hope that I can contribute to Indian football, and Indian football grows in the next 20 to 30 years, and we want our team to represent India. And we all know that it is not going to be just if we have our own origin people working in it. We have to bring in people from abroad internationally who have experience. And you being one of them, I think you will definitely contribute to Indian football and you will definitely contribute to the ideas IKF has. So it was great chatting with you, and if you can just let your experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a great conversation. You asked a really interesting question. And anyway, keep up with the work. You need energy. That passion, like you mentioned at the beginning, is a vital skill to have. Keep going with your hard work. Hopefully, we're gonna meet in Mumbai when I'll be there around. It will be nice to meet you in person. And keep up with the good work. It will take time, but I'm sure India will be there with the top clubs eventually.
Yeah. So that is it. That brings us to the end of this episode. Do share, like, and subscribe the channel, and don't forget to hit the follow button as well. And don't forget to follow IKF for upcoming trials and workshops. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you.
Bye.